So this is Louis, otherwise known as the Five-Take Man, otherwise known as the man with a slightly above-average intelligence, I want to say, because it's pretty easy to avoid confrontations. I'm going to be talking about the situation in Denver, Colorado, where an attendee to a right-wing rally got shot after the event ended and attendees were leaving. So this story is turned into a Twitter drama. That seems to be sort of where this is located and who's talking about it and all that. And immediately after the shooting, people were accusing the shooter of being Antifa, and even I responded glibly that if you go to a rally and want a fist fight with Antifa, don't be surprised when you get nuked and turned into a news story. Go armed or not at all. More or less, that take still stands because there are certain details to the story that are still unknown and are strange, that don't really add up exactly. But from what we know, I think at this point I can put the blame on the idiot who got himself shot. I know that people are making a big deal out of this guy and trying to make him a martyr, but unfortunately, one of the things we're going to have to accept is that if you start sparring off with people in the capacity that this guy was, you are going to get yourself shot. And the smart thing to do is to not do what this guy did. It doesn't automatically translate in that this is a clean shoot and this guy's totally at fault and all that, because there's a few details that don't exactly add up or are not accounted for just yet. I'll give you the information that I have. So the right-wing rally in Denver ends. Attendees are leaving the event and they're walking down the sidewalk, and there are some left-wing hecklers. We have video of the seconds before the shooting, and the guy that gets shot is jostling with some left-wing BLM heckler, and the guy in question is making violent overtones. The person that is engaging with him, the activist, the protester, is engaging in violent overtones. Both parties involved here are not exactly innocent in terms of engagement, where the guy who's arguing with him is actively trying to get in the guy's face and has to be separated. And the shooting occurs after he gets separated. He approaches the shooter, and as far as we can tell, slaps him in the face. There is a photo of him doing this. He slaps the guy in the face. The guy then pulls his pistol. Our idiot here pulls out a cartridge of mace or pepper spray or something, begins to spray the guy. The guy already has his pistol pulled and fires. And I can't quite remember how many rounds he fires from the video, but I'll say at least one. The guy gets shot, I believe, in the head, goes down immediately, very likely died not long after being shot. The police who were just down the road, who, in my view, should have intervened already, because it was very clear that the black guy is screaming at the top of his lungs. You got this guy dropping some N-bombs at this black guy. The police were very close by. They heard this. They heard this confrontation. They should have intervened. They spent the whole day keeping these people separate. And I have to say that, as much shit as police get, in this situation, there should have been cops patrolling down when people were leaving. They were just standing nearby. They could have intervened here and possibly prevented this. But, police can't be everywhere, blah, blah, blah. Ultimately, the people at fault are this guy and the shooter. But like I say, this altercation had already been going on. The police were right there. They should have intervened and kept these people separate. The part of this that is strange, and there is more than one part that is strange, why did this idiot slap this so-called security guard in the face? Why did he do this? Why didn't he continue to argue with the black guy? Why did he approach this random guy and slap him in the face? Did he do this just because he's a violent idiot? Perhaps, but there's a question here. Why did he do this? There's a black guy screaming in your face. Why are you not continuing to argue with this guy? Why did you approach this random security guard, so-called? That is a question that I have that I haven't seen any answers for. But like I said, it could be that this guy just decided, I'm going to slap this guy right here. I'm just going to hit this guy instead of the black guy. I'm just going to slap this guy instead. Additionally, why he then pulled his mace as well. That portion of this, it's strange. I haven't really heard anyone and there was a bunch of people there. There were journalists right there when this happened. And where people were getting Antifa from was from a journalist who was on scene. That's where this came from. So if people are saying, oh, the right wing just made this up, no. This had to be corrected way, way later, that the guy who shot the other guy was not Antifa. He was not a protester, so-called. But again, there is a question. There are things there that don't exactly add up entirely just yet. The police are withholding any kind of judgment, even to the degree that this guy is a so-called security guard. They're not even willing to disclose that. I have an article from the horse's mouth where they're holding back everything so far, where the information of the guy, the shooter, him being a security guard, that is coming from 9 News. 9 News is alleging that the shooter was a security guard for some journal that was there on the scene. Who that journalist is, I'm not quite sure. Maybe if I spent a little bit more time reading this article instead of listening to the cop, I would know. But that's who's claiming that this is a security guard. Another issue here is the agency that the security guard allegedly worked for, whether he could legally operate as an ununiformed armed guard in Denver, Colorado. In my experience, when working in cities, and I don't really know the laws in Denver, but based on my own experience, the cities typically have more stringent regulations around being an armed guard. There are several hoops that you have to jump through to be an armed guard, but to be an armed guard in this capacity and also carry a firearm, maybe, again, it's just a difference between New York and Colorado, but as well there, it's just kind of strange. I've not really seen in a guard that works for a mainstream security agency that can guard someone in this way, where you are plain clothes and you have no identifying material related to you being an officer, you working for this corporation as an officer. Any time that I would deal with my own experience of being a guard, you weren't allowed in any way to work at all if especially if you were carrying a gun and you were licensed to be a security guard. If you worked, you had to wear some kind of identification, even if it was down to a lanyard. So the corporate offices for the company I worked for, you could dress in just like a more business casual, or maybe just a suit, your average business suit, but you still had to have some kind of identification to show that you were a guard, something. Even if it was just a lanyard with a badge or something, you had to show some kind of identification to indicate that you were a security guard. In this case, I haven't noticed anything like that. There's a bunch of people talking about this dude's tattoo, whatever. that to me is completely immaterial. Yeah, like I say, this guy is dressed way down to be a guard. He doesn't have any kind of identification on him. It's, like I say, it's just strange, but then again, it could also be that this guy is perfectly legally compliant in Colorado, and I just don't know. That could be the case entirely. The journalist that he's with, I'm not sure who that is, whether it's the guy directly behind him. It could be that. There's an outlet claiming that he is a contractor through them, that he was contracted to provide security. So it could check out entirely. There's people online, like I said, there's people on Twitter debating this, that there is the chance that this guy is an ideological sympathizer, that there are ideological sympathizers at this news outlet. That's no surprise to me. And I'll link you at least to some tweet that indicates that there's at least sympathizers at this outlet. But if you ask me, that's a bit thin. It's a bit thin that this guy was there to be an agitator, that he wasn't a security guard, that this is all bullshit. It could always be. There's always the chance that that is in fact the case. But all that needs to occur is somebody calls Pinkerton, which is the agency alleged that is his employee, and it's coming from 9 News. They're saying that this guy works for Pinkerton. You call them, you ask, is this guy an employee? Was he sent to work for 9 News? Was he on duty that day? Was he legally operating as a guard under you? Was he in compliance with your policies? Was he in compliance with state policies? All of that. There are ways in which this guy, even if this is a clean shoot, that this guy could get in legal trouble based around legal compliance for being a guard, and carrying a weapon, discharging a weapon, all this. There's many ways this guy could get in trouble irrespective of whether or not the shoot was justified. But ultimately, all that is going to come back on him, and maybe, the agency itself gets fined or some such shit. But if you were to ask me at the moment whether this is, if I had to make a choice, this is a clean shoot or not, I would say that based on what we know at the moment, the guy that got shot initiated the violence, and that was the response disproportionate, perhaps, but anytime you engage in unprovoked violence, you are risking your life. Things are tense at the moment. There's police everywhere. They're carrying rifles. They're taking this seriously, so should you. If you show up to a right-wing rally and you got hecklers, don't just engage in unprovoked violence with them. If you see some guy on the street who's walking towards you because a journalist is right behind him with a camera in hand, wanting to film some shit so he can get, a news story or get some money and, get a photo and pass that along, which is where the photos that we have now, that's what it was. Another photojournalist was right there, and he was a foot away getting photos of all of this. And I'm sure he's going to clean up. However, as I'm saying here, don't engage in unprovoked violence because it could cost you your life. And that, in my view, is very likely what happened here. As I've already said, not everything is adding up. The police are withholding quite a bit of information, even though every journalist is asking the question, is this guy a security guard? Was he working for this news outlet? You could confirm all that by going through Pinkerton. Anytime that I worked for anybody as a guard, if you called the main office, you could get, they would probably pass it forward to my direct supervisor, and they could give you a simple yes or no. It's not the news channel claiming it itself. You're confirming that secondhand through Pinkerton, that this is an employee, he is licensed, he is in compliance, and he was scheduled to work for this news outlet in this capacity, protecting certain journalists on the street for this rally. I'm certain that this is a professional mainstream company. I'm confident that they could confirm all of this. However, with this being a liability situation, now that, a guard has shot some guy and that guy's fucking dead, chances are the company is going to go on full, lockdown mode, PR mode, don't say anything, don't talk about this, and they're going to meet with a fleet of lawyers who are going to tell them say absolutely fucking nothing. So, unfortunately, time has passed. One of these people at Pinkerton are going to talk to an attorney, and now you're basically going to have to get some kind of court order to get any information out of them because they're not saying shit. Especially if this fucking guy was in the wrong. They're not going to want to say shit about this instance. They'll give you a PR statement, and that's going to be fucking it. Until this goes to court, and who knows? Unless you have some fucking idiot in charge at Pinkerton. Maybe you call some random person, and through an anonymous source, or maybe they fuck up and are like, yeah, I know this guy, blah, blah, blah. Like, maybe that happens, you get lucky, but if they have any sense, they're not going to say a fucking thing, because that's just standard operating procedure for any corporation like this, where if you have an instance like this, you have a situation, you go on full lockdown mode, you go into PR damage control mode, we're liable mode, and you say fucking nothing, because what you're trying to avoid is the family of this fucking guy, or the city, or anybody, or the news team that hired them. You're trying to avoid any conceivable lawsuits based around this situation. The guard in question, I haven't seen anything about this guy being charged, so he's likely not going to be charged until whatever detective is going to be assigned to this reviews the information and, passes that along to a district attorney or assistant district attorney to determine one way or another whether they're going to bring this to a grand jury or what have you. But chances are, unless there's details in this where one of these people come forward who are witnesses right there when it happened and say, the security guard said something or said, bring it on, bro, or said something, or did something. Maybe he hit him first. Chances are that's not what's happening because the photos don't indicate that. But there could be a detail that we're missing that justifies the guy slapping him or something. But chances are, and if I had to put money on it, I don't think that's going to happen. I think that this guard is probably just going to walk from this instance because some idiot who's spurring for a fight walked up to him, slapped him in the face, and the guard was like, all right, I don't know what this guy's going to do. Maybe he thought that the pepper spray was a gun. It all depends on... Allegedly, the guy was already spraying when he fired, based on one of the photos and from an eyewitness, that the guy was already spraying when he fired. Is that justified use of force, of lethal force in Colorado? I don't have a fucking clue. But if I were that guard, I'd be hoping so. That's a justified use of force. But, like I said, in the tweet, don't do this. Don't engage in this kind of behavior, because in the end, and it was this case, you're going to get fucking nuked. That's what happened to this guy. He engaged in violence, the other guy had a fucking gun, and our tubby idiot friend here got fucking nuked. To me, this is kind of just one of those moments where I have to roll my eyes and shake my head and say, well, buddy, what exactly did you expect to happen? You can argue that it was a disproportionate response, but the fact is like I said, don't engage in unprovoked violence if you are ill-prepared for it. You walk up to some dude, you pull your stupid little mace, and you smack him in the face, and you got shot in the head and killed. The fact is that even if he goes to jail for murder or something, some charge, some, Class A misdemeanor or some lower felony, whatever, even if this guy goes to jail, in the end, he's going to get out and he's going to be alive and you'll still be fucking dead. And in the end, really, that's all that matters. I see people, I don't want to really say spurging out about this on Twitter, but it's a drama on Twitter and people are just digging and trying to find something that justified that this guy's Antifa, and then you got left-wingers just celebrating this. And yeah, there were people on scene celebrating this that were left-wing activists. There's people on Twitter that are celebrating this. So yeah, the left-wing is going to celebrate when some right-wing douchebag gets nuked and is dead. Come to expect this. I am not surprised. I'm not angry. I fundamentally don't really care because it's SOP at this point for the left. And when Kyle Rittenhouse killed those other people and shot that guy's arm off and that, no one really on our side was saying many prayers for those guys, and neither was I. I don't really want to say celebratory, but just saying, the people he shot were scumbags and their lives don't matter. In this case with this guy, I would wager that there's a decent chance this guy has a criminal record based on his behavior. I mean, the fucking guy who slapped the guard, the alleged guard. Based on his look, based on his demeanor, I'm thinking, yeah, this guy's probably no fucking choir boy. This guy probably has a rap sheet himself. He looks like a scumbag. He carries himself like a scumbag. He's dropping N-bombs. Do you deserve to die for slapping a man in the face? No. But like I said, things are tense. This guard doesn't know what your intentions are. You were aggressive to him as far as we can tell. If there's a detail missing, then it's missing. That justifies this guy running up and smacking this guy when, again, the black guy's in your face. You're arguing with him. Why did you approach this guy? It doesn't make sense to me. Why our stupid friend here would do this. But he did it. And as he did it, there were multiple journalists right there, record him getting shot. So the odds that people are lying about him being a guard, I don't know. That doesn't seem to really pan out if you just look at the hard facts of immediately what we know when there are journalists right there next to this guy. Multiple journalists right next to this fucking guy as he's pulling his pistol. To me, it's like, nah, it makes sense. There's enough about this that makes sense where what is being reported probably is true, and this guy probably did try to start a fight and got himself fucking shot as a response. What can I say? When you are just below the average on that bell curve, there are choices that you make, and there are consequences to those choices. And while it might not be pretty to say, a lot of times when you make a stupid decision, it could cost you your life because you're acting in a stupid and reckless manner, and you fail to anticipate what could be. And to me, it's like, well, I mean, we've already seen enough violence. Like, especially after what happened in the Kyle Rittenhouse situation, where, bro, everyone in that situation had a frickin' gun. There was guns everywhere. The one guy, I think it was the one child molester who was the first guy to get shot and killed. The reason that guy got shot is because there was some guy in the background with a gun who fired. And there's a good chance that Kyle heard that shot, figured it was the guy chasing him, and, it was still justified either way, if you ask me, based on the situation in that case. With that particular shoot, it was still a good shoot, in my view, because that guy was clearly coming at him, and the fact is if you're charging after somebody, then, it is a justified shoot. And as far as we can tell, with our idiot here, he was the one to engage in violence. He was the one that was the aggressor, and what can I say? I just be repeating myself at this point. So I will end this video by saying, if you are going to an event, if you're going to a rally, whatever, do not go there with the intention of starting a fight with Antifa or Black Lives Matter. Go there for the event. Don't engage with the hecklers. If you're there and people are engaging in violence with you, obviously defend yourself. Police, please be more active. Please, when you are separating these people all day and you have a fight, you have an argument, you have people being separated, and you're right fucking there, please get involved. Please separate these fucking people to prevent things like this happening. If you want to fight with Antifa, if that is your intention, do not go to a street brawl unprepared. Don't go there with some fucking mace and you got mace and nothing else but your cock in your hand as you're getting fucking nuked. You know, what can I really say? Don't be stupid. And the fact is, you getting yourself shot is not going to solve anything. What we want to have happen is for these people to punch federal officers and go to prison for decades. That is the smart play. That is the solution. That is how we clean up our streets. It's not engaging with these people in a street brawl. It's, you know, not mirroring their tactics and spraying them with mace. It is getting federal officers in between you and them and having these people violently attack federal officers and go to prison for an incredibly long time. And being that these people are pretty soft, they're probably going to get raped and murdered in prison. And criminal lives don't matter. I don't agree with prison rape, even though everyone else finds it to be a joke. Because crime in prison should not be something we abide by. But what can I say? It's a whole other issue. But like I say, these people are soft. Surviving decades in prison, I don't really see happening. But that is what they deserve because they are violent terrorists. We should not be engaging in violence ourselves when it is so easily avoidable and when it does not help us at this point. It does not help us in any way, shape, or form for our side to be engaging in stupid fucking violence like this. It just doesn't make any sense to me. And I don't see it as justified. When you're there for the event, leave the event. If you got some guy heckling you, you could say whatever shit back to him. He gets close to you, you can shove him back and all that. If these people are aggressive with you, defend yourself. But do not go to events looking for a fight because you might just get, in the end, what you deserve for being stupid. All right? Thank you for listening.